Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we make this custom Corian plaque. Now this plaque is actually made using two different CNC platforms. The first one is the CNC router, and what that does is cut out the shape, and then after that I use the laser to actually do the laser engraving on the plaque. Now technically speaking, I could very much use the router to also do the engraving, but the downside of that, let's put this down, it's kind of heavy. The downside of that is that you're limited by the bit diameter. So let's say you use a 1/8 bit, everything will have a 1/16 inner corner. Well, if you use the laser, the beam is infinitely small, so as a result you end up with sharp inner corners. And that's what makes the plaque really stand out. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day when you do the paint filling, but what does matter is to have sharp letters, as you see here. Let's get the focus working. So everything's really nice and sharp, and that just makes it pop. That's what I really enjoy about doing the laser. Now you might be wondering, why don't I use the laser to cut out the Corian? The laser can't do that. This is basically plastic, and it ends up melting and degrading very, very fast using the laser to cut it. I've tried it before, it's just a nightmare. So use the right tool for the right project. I really enjoy the process of making these custom Corian plaques. The first step is always making the shape, and that's where you see the larger slab here of 1/2" thin Corian. This is cobalt Corian, by the way. So the first pass that the router does is actually add the chamfer to the edge. This gives me a consistent chamfer across the entire surface of the Corian plaque. The second step after that is actually cutting out the plaque. So it's two different bits. One's a chamfering bit, and the other one is basically a 1/2" diameter cutting bit. So that means once I lift this off the router, I have the shape that I need, I have the size that I need, and I'm ready to basically go directly into the laser. And what the laser will do is actually carve out or carve into the Corian for the information that the customer requires. Now the reason why you see me doing multiple steps around here is just to make sure that the plaque doesn't move at the final step, because the last thing you want to do is cut out a shape and then you have a little gouge or something like that to deal with, and that would basically mean that the plaque is scrap. Now what you see here is the laser engraving process, and for this you see me going multiple times. Now my laser is powerful enough to go as deep as I need to in one pass, but with Corian I found that I don't get a consistent sort of bottom to the engraving if I try to do this in one pass. Multiple passes produces a more fine granular base, and that helps me a lot because when it comes to actually the painting process, I want to make sure I have something really grippy. So the bottom of where I laser engraved, doesn't matter where on the plaque I laser engraved, basically has like a 40 grit sandpaper sort of feel to it. And that's wonderful for paint adhesion. And so basically what I did is I sanded it first. I made sure I had a clean surface, put the mask on, do the laser engraving, and then do the spray painting as you saw there. And then I let it sit for 24 to 72 hours. After that, it's removing all the initial paint off. Then after that is a lot of sanding through the grits until I have the consistency that I need on the plaque surface. And that's also why I do multiple passes using the laser, because you want to have a certain depth to it because of all the sanding that I need to do after the fact. The last thing I want to do is get to this step here and I start sanding, and then I start removing not only the paint but also the laser engraving. So this avoids the whole thing by going extra deep. Have a nice clean surface to work from. Now when it comes to making custom plaques, we can literally make them out of any material. So let's say you wanted this plaque here made out of stainless steel, we can do that for you. You want Corian to be, instead of 1/2" thick, to be 2 inches thick, we can do that for you. You want it out of a lamellicoid, you want it out of any sort of wood species, we can do that as well. So you basically have infinite options regarding the material. And as for the design on it, as long as you send us a vector image, any sort of design works totally fine. Now it does get a little bit more challenging when you have very, very small details. I'll show you again here. So you can see the rope design on it. It's nice and sharp, but it gets a little bit tricky with the paint filling because you have to make absolutely sure the paint goes in all the little spots. So that takes a little bit more time to figure out and to get proper and do a couple passes. But generally speaking, basically anything works with plaques. and we can make them for you. So looking for custom plaques, contact me at CNCKing.com, where we can make it for you and ship it right to your door.